Hello, my wonderful friends. Welcome back to r/EntitledPeople, one of my favorite subreddits, where you come to hear stories about people who think that the world revolves around them and that nobody else matters. My friends, I hope you're having a lovely day today, because I sure as heck am, because I love reading these entitled stories. In this episode, you're going to hear 6 stories. The first is a Karen trying to cut in line and getting shut down. I love this story. The second story is an entitled army wife who thinks, since her husband's in the military, that she can do no wrong. And the third story is about an entitled neighbor that keeps using someone's driveway without permission. My friends, I hope you stay for the stories today, and do hit that subscribe button for future stories about entitled people. Let's dive in. This first story is titled, Karen Tries to Cut Me in Line, Gets Shut Down. So this happened to me before the pandemic at a Wally World. It was a very busy day. My husband and I had just finished our shopping, so I was standing in line, waiting to cash out. Now, the lines were very long, really long. There were at least 8 people behind me, and I was the 4th person before the cashier in line. My husband stepped away to find some beverages for us to drink on the way home, since it was still warm outside. This lady, our Karen of the story, comes walking past everyone and was standing near the drink coolers that are near the register. She was acting like she was looking in the coolers for something, and she had put her hand on my cart as if to steady herself. I moved my cart back just a smidge so she could look in the cooler without having to touch my cart. I tried to just ignore her. I'm not the type of person who likes to converse with people I don't know. She continues to look in the coolers but lets go of my cart. The line continues to move slowly, but now I'm 3rd in line. I tried to move up to fill the gap that was left, but Karen was in the way as she was continuing to look in the coolers. The Karen never said a word to me, and she still continues to look in the cooler, mumbling to herself as if she's looking for something. I was starting to push my cart forward, signaling for her to move out of the way, as she's not in line and she's just looking in the cooler. Now, for some ungodly reason, Karen firmly grabs the end of my cart, holds onto it, and yells to someone and motions for them to come over. I looked over to see what looks like to be a man. He was probably at least 6 feet tall, every bit of 300 pounds, and actually had a neckbeard. I really wish I was making this story up at this point, but I'm not. Karen then says to the man, "Come over here, right here," as she motions for him to get in front of me. Now, this Karen never once said a word to me, nor did she even ask if he could get in front of me. Myself, along with every other person in line, thought she was just coming up to the coolers to grab a drink and to get to the back of the line. I turned around and looked to see that the line is getting longer, and now there's at least 12 people standing in line behind me. Karen's husband, or whoever he was, had a cart that was overflowing and was expected to get in front of me without asking. I did the only thing I could do. I pushed my cart forward and said, "Nope, nope, nope." Karen takes her hand off my cart, steps back like I just ran over her foot, and stands there with a surprised Pikachu face. She then looked around to see if anyone would help, looking panicked as if she was just assaulted, but no one would help her. I happened to overhear the lady behind me say, "You're darn right," as she closed the gap between us. I also saw the man behind her as he moved forward to close the gap. He was just shaking his head and chuckling to himself. I heard a few chuckles from the crowd that was watching all of this. No one was going to stand up for Karen, and injustice had been done to her, but no one was going to help her. The man, who we all find out is her son, then says to her, "But Mom, the line's long. Where do I go?" Karen leaves the line and just says, "Let's go down here," and walks away. I've never laughed so hard in my entire life. I could not believe that I acted so quickly to stop her. Oh my God, I love the fact that OP just said, "Nope, nope, nope, not all heroes wear capes, OP, and you certainly were the hero that day." That's such a piece of junk move to pretend to walk past everybody in line and look at the coolers, and then having the audacity to hold the cart and yell to her son to get in front of OP. That's another level of entitlement. I'll tell you guys right there. So, I have a question for you all. Would it have been fair at that point to call her son over if she actually waited fairly in line? Can you hold a spot for somebody and have them bring a cart full of stuff and have that be okay? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. This next story is titled, "My Husband is in the Army, so your house is mine." So where I live, there's a small army base, and around it is a housing estate where families live. Part of the estate was sold to a couple of housing associations, and I live in one of those. The army families move around a lot, so people in those houses generally move around every 2 years or so, some a little more frequently, others less so. There's a row of 4 terrace houses directly across from me, and one of them was empty, ready for new tenants. And here's where we begin. I took my daughter to nursery and then we went shopping for some new clothes. This was at 9 a.m. I get back around 11:30 a.m. and see a large moving truck in the street. To avoid them, I go to the other side of my property. I go in the front door and take the new clothes upstairs to sort. While I'm there, I hear noise from my back garden and door. Looking out the window, I see a man with a large toolbox trying to open my back door, and a woman behind him looking furious, and the guys from the moving company just standing around with boxes looking bored. I run downstairs and open the door, and the guy, who I guess was a locksmith, practically fell through my door and into my kitchen. He was surprised, of course, and after looking around he was confused because clearly someone already lived here. The woman then sighs dramatically and thanks me for finally turning up, because they've been here since 8 a.m., trying to get in. She just wants to get all of her stuff inside so her kids can sleep. She waves the moving guys forward and then goes to get her kids out of the car. I'm busy trying to stop the moving guys from coming in with boxes, and her 2 kids, about 3 and 6, come charging into my garden. I've got a slide, a swing, a small trampoline, and a playhouse there for my daughter to play with. I yell at them to get out of my garden, and there's been some sort of a mistake, and for them to stay away from my house. One of the movers looks in the window to my living room, sees all of my furniture there, and waves his team back to the truck. His team leader pulls out some paperwork and begins going over it. The woman starts yelling at me, telling me that she lives here now. I've lived in this house for 4 years and tell her such, but she's having none of it. She gets right up in my face. She's screaming at me, and I'm having trouble not bursting into tears from being so emotional and decking her. The locksmith tries to calm her down, and she starts to have a go at him next. I call up the local police station office. There is one in the housing estate, but it generally only caters to the army people and such. I figured calling them to deal with her was the best solution. They arrive a few minutes after and take the woman aside. Her kids are still playing on my daughter's things, so I tell them to get off and go to their mother, because those toys don't belong to them. They go reluctantly, and when their mother notices, she begins yelling again. She was yelling that apparently those toys in the garden aren't mine, how they were put there by the army for her kids because her husband is such a wonderful, amazing soldier. She also was trying to tell everyone that this is her house and that I'm some squatter trying to steal it from her. This is when the movers come over and tell her that this is the wrong address. She's moving into number 4 and this is number 14. She goes very silent, grabs her kids, and leaves the garden. I call out to ask her if she's going to pay for the damages. My garden was wrecked. The grass is torn up by her kids and the movers. My door was damaged, and there were footprints on it, looking like someone tried to kick it in. She tells me no, and she didn't even apologize because she's done nothing wrong. I then inform her that I have cameras installed and that they would have seen the whole thing. I ask the officers if they would like to view the footage, and one of them watches the whole incident take place once I bring out my laptop. He also tells me that he will have to report the woman's behavior to the army base, as a family's bad behavior can have repercussions for their soldiers too. It's now 5 p.m. The officer was here collecting copies of the footage in case it was needed to be shown to the army officials as an example of her bad behavior. Husband turned up an hour ago, and there was a huge argument across the street, and everyone could hear it but not exactly what was being said. Either way, this family hasn't exactly had a good start to their time here, and I can only hope they move away soon so I won't have to deal with that woman again. That woman is definitely a super entitled wife. Oh, this can't be your house. The army left toys and swing sets and playhouses in this yard because my husband is such an amazing soldier. Do they even do that? Oh my goodness. If I were OP, I'd definitely be calling the moving company and seeing if I can get any compensation. Someone really dropped the ball on that one. So OP has an update to the story, and the update reads, "So today, I managed to speak with the husband of the woman. He actually came over and knocked at my door. He apologized for his wife mixing up her houses and wanted to make sure I was okay. He looked over the damages to my door and said he would be happy to fix the damages and buy some stuff to repair my lawn. I thanked him and asked what happened with the whole house thing. He said the movers arrived first, got the wrong house, and then called his wife, who immediately told them to call a locksmith. The movers had keys so they could get the large items in before she got there. When the keys didn't work, the movers called the locksmith, which is apparently used by the movers a lot, and they did not question the house numbers. When the wife arrived, she stopped the locksmith and tried to get the door open with her set of keys. When that didn't work, she started kicking the door. The locksmith stopped her and started trying to open the door himself, which is where I came in. His wife told him everything after their argument, and he had been keeping an eye out so he could come talk to me. Things are basically sorted now. This story is entitled, Neighbor Uses Driveway Without Permission. My fiancé and I purchased our home a few years ago, and our neighbor introduced herself shortly after we moved in. She seemed like a nice elderly woman who appeared to have custody of her young grandson. We had no issues until her middle-aged son moved in. This guy always yelled at the boy and generally acted like a jerk. He drove a small, beat-up truck that leaked oil. His mother has a nice long double-car driveway, and she didn't want oil stains on the concrete, so she had him park on the side yard next to our house. It was right outside of our kitchen window and kind of an eyesore, but it's her property, so whatever. We assumed that her son would drive through their yard to his parking spot, but apparently that was too inconvenient. Instead, he decided to back into our driveway and through our yard to get to his spot. We were always at work when he did this, but we caught it on our camera, so our driveway is gravel and isn't in the best shape. Her son would take off too fast and throw gravel everywhere. After a couple of days, he started to leave a rut, so my fiancé went over to ask him to stop. The mother answered the door and seemed annoyed by our request. Her son parked in the driveway after this, so we assumed that that was the end of it. Well, while I was at work the following Friday, I received a motion notification from one of our cameras. I check it, and sure enough, I see her son using our driveway once again. After work, I passive-aggressively decided to park my car at the end of our driveway. The entrance is only big enough for one car, and there's a deep ditch on both sides, so I knew her son couldn't get out that way. We were planning on staying in for the weekend, so I wouldn't be moving again till Monday morning. On Saturday, we were doing yard work out front, and the son came out with his dog. He gave us a dirty look but didn't say anything, and I figured he got the message. We woke up around noon on Sunday to a bunch of notifications from our doorbell camera. I pulled up the videos to see the neighbor's son absolutely fuming. He rang our doorbell 5 times and stood on our porch for 20 minutes. The whole time, he was throwing his hands up and muttering about needing to leave. He actually expected us to get up, go outside in the pouring rain, and move my car so he could use our driveway to get out. He must have driven through his mother's yard to leave, because his truck was gone after that day. He never said anything to us and only parked in her driveway, so I guess he learned his lesson. The thing is, if he would have asked us first, we might have worked something out with him, but instead, he wanted to act like an entitled brat. This story is titled, Sister Demands Grandma's Apartment. So, my sister in her mid-30s is probably the worst case of entitled I've ever seen. She's always the victim, can do no wrong, and the world owes her for her imaginary suffering. This time, however, she's reached a whole new level. She recently confessed to her mom and me that she started dating someone behind her husband's back. And to be honest, her husband is also a ginormous jerk, but that's beside the point. I don't think anyone deserves to be cheated on, and even though he totally sucks, an affair does not constitute as some kind of punishment. Now, our grandma passed away at the end of August. It hasn't even been a month since she passed, and since she was terminally ill, we did have time to discuss things and make arrangements for others. She lived in an old apartment that's attached to my mom's house, and we had talked about me moving in after Grandma passed, and everyone thought it was a good idea. I'm also disabled, so I could have benefited from living there, as it has things like no slip railings, kitchen tools, and gadgets for arthritic hands, etc. Come to find out that my sister thinks it'd be a cool idea to have her marital affair move into my mom's property instead so she can use our mom as some kind of cover for her affair. And I'm absolutely repulsed and livid. We were all just starting to let my sister come around again because after Grandma passed, she seemed like it really affected her and that she was really turning over a new leaf. But it was fake. It's all because she wants her boyfriend to move in. I don't think anyone's gonna fly with the idea. I just can't believe that she even thought it would be a viable option, and something that she could even suggest to us. Why does she just assume that we'll help her cheat on her husband? I want no part of it, and I will not be an accomplice. Also, her justification for suggesting he move in is because, quote, OP doesn't seem to be in much of a rush to get up there. Like, yeah, I found our grandma deceased less than a month ago. Sorry I haven't been in a hurry to erase Grandma from her home. I'm also sorry that I haven't been sorting through all of her belongings and getting them ready to be rehomed or donated. And the fact that I have to get rid of anything at all hurts. And I'm sorry I haven't done it yet, but maybe try having a little empathy. I've decided that I'm kicking my sister out of my life again. Each time I think she's capable of changing, she shows that she's still the same horrible, selfish person, and I'm done falling for the charade. So, OP has an update to the story, and it reads, "My family and I have begun going through Grandma's belongings, and it's definitely been bittersweet. We've also found so many family photos and keepsakes and overall good memories. I even found a box that belonged to my great-grandpa, and it had his pocket watch and locket with a photo of my great-grandma in it. My sister did manage to bully her way into the apartment for a few hours so she could pick out what keepsake she wanted, but joke's on her because I hid all of the things that Grandma wouldn't have wanted her to take. She walked away with not much more than a decorative bowl. She's starting to drop the narrative that her boyfriend can move into the apartment now that she sees that we're serious about me being the new tenant. But she did make some little comments that let me know that it's not forgotten. She can plot all she wants though, because we're installing a security system and changing the locks. So if she thinks she can sneak in or try to get her hands on anything else, she's sadly mistaken. My mom and I have decided that after I move into the apartment, we're going to tell her husband the truth about the affair and offer our support to him and the kids and do whatever we can to help. My sister might hate us for it, but at the end of the day, she's the victim of her own actions. And I'm tired of sparing her feelings so she can continue to treat everyone around her like absolute garbage. And my mom agrees that enough is enough. And if we never hold her accountable for what she does, she'll continue to push the limits of what she can get away with. OP's sister sounds like she's been entitled her whole life and has always gotten what she's wanted. She's clearly showing no sympathy for grandmother's passing or any remorse for her actions, and is clearly using the situation to benefit herself. And hopefully OP and her mom changing the locks and telling her sister's husband about her affair will bring her sister down a few notches and give her a real dose of reality. This story is titled Karen and the Handicap Spot. For context, I'm a 25-year-old disabled female. I have a handicap placard. I can walk, but it's very difficult to. I realized I was out of stuff for my salad because the collard greens went bad. I decided to go to the store real quick, but it wasn't until I got halfway there that I realized I left my cane at home. It was a good day, and I wasn't in too much pain, so I decided that turning around would be foolish. And if they had an electric cart at the store, I just used that. I get to the store, and I'm happy to see that there's one handicap spot left, and I snagged it. I grab my mask and start walking to the front doors when I'm blocked by the entitled mother who is livid. She points her finger at my car and got right in my face, like nose to nose. Neither of us have masks on, and I've only taken about 10 steps and about to put on my mask. I'm horrified, and I take many steps back and throw my mask up as fast as I can. She says, "Excuse me, you're in a handicapped spot, and people like you are why my kid had to walk far to the door. You need to move your car now." I replied, "Ma'am, I have the right to be in this spot. I have a placard. I'm disabled." She says, "You're not disabled. You don't have a wheelchair. You don't look disabled at all." I told her that I am disabled and that my doctor agrees, and I'm just going to go inside and shop. I then walked around her and went into the store. They didn't have any electric carts, so I just grabbed a regular cart and leaned on it while getting everything. I was only in the store about 20 minutes, and as I'm walking out to my car, I can see her still standing around my car. But she's not alone, she's with a police officer. She sees me and looks very smug. I approach my car nervously because I have no idea what to do. I've never been in this situation before. She says, "This is the woman who's using the handicap spot without being disabled." She points to me and looks like she's aided in catching a dangerous criminal. The police officer says, "Ma'am, is this your car? Is that your placard in the windshield?" I told him, "Yes, sir, and I can give you the info I got with my placard and my ID to prove it." He says, "That'll be great." So I get my stuff out of the glove box and also pull up my disability papers on my phone because I'm literally terrified of what's going to happen. She's talking about how I'm so in the wrong and I'm going to have to pay a fine, and I'm shaking. The police officer says, "Well, everything seems in order here. I'm sorry about this hassle. Feel free to leave at any time and have a great day." The woman looks livid. She starts saying how I can't be disabled. I just can't. A police officer asked her to follow him over to her car. I leave quickly because I'm still so freaked out about what happened. So, my friend is a police officer, and he told me that people actually face harassment on a regular basis due to their invisible disabilities and parking in handicap spots. You don't have to look disabled to be considered disabled, but Karens will never ever understand because they're Karens. This story is titled Self-Conscious Coworker. So, I'm an essential worker. I work in a factory and I wear a uniform, but I still come dressed in how I normally dress. I love to wear skirts and decorative tights, crop tops, etc. I'm pretty slim and petite, so one of my CO workers is the same age as me, and she's a bit on the curvier side. She always comes in sweatpants and baggy sweaters. I've seen her outside of work before, and she does put effort into her appearance when she wants to. So, one day we were changing back into our normal clothes when I caught her staring at me. I asked her if everything's okay, and she just shrugged and walked out without saying anything. So, I ordered this cute yellow plaid skirt since the quarantine, and I haven't been able to wear it, so I decided to wear it to work. Walking in, I saw my coworker sitting in the break room talking to some other people. I go over to the table I usually sit at and start chatting with some CO workers while I put my stuff in place. One of the guys is a man in his 40s with a daughter close to my age. He said he liked my skirt and might get one for his kid. This caught her attention, and she asked why he would allow his daughter to dress like a tramp. This made people stop and stare at her. When she realized what she just said, she got up and walked out of the break room and into the locker room. Upset, I followed her in and just saw her changing into her uniform. I asked her why she would say something like that, and all she said was, "I have no reason to explain myself to you." I told her, considering you were talking about me, I think you do. She huffed and said that I'm obviously trying to get people to look at me and expect that every girl has to dress like this. She said I was begging for attention and how I made her self-conscious. First off, I don't dress for other people, I dress for myself. I basically flipped it on her, saying, "Well, I don't like the way you dress because you're making people think that girls shouldn't take pride in the way they look." She says, "I don't care what people think about me," which I replied with, "Then why do you care so much about how I dress?" Her response was, "Because no normal person dresses like that. You look stupid and people think you're a freak." She leaves the locker room all smug as if she just won the fight. But because of her little outburst in the break room, people started giving her the side eye. She noticed this and now blames me for making people think that she's a bad person. I love how she thinks that OP made her seem like a bad person and is putting all the blame on her. Clearly, it wasn't the part where she insulted OP and also told the man that his daughter would look like a tramp if she dressed in a similar fashion. So, OP has an update, and it says, "Thank you everyone for your kind words. I did talk to HR, and they said since it's her first offense, all they can do is give her a written warning. Also, I get my confidence from my grandma, my friends. These stories really struck a chord with me and I'd like to share my views. The Karen tries to cut me in line, gets shut down story had me cheering. I've been in those endless Walmart queues and that nope pushback was gold. I love how the OP reclaims space. Entitlement like grabbing a cart to sneak family in is infuriating. The son's confusion? Priceless karma. My husband is in the army, so your house is mine story is peak delusion. I can't fathom mistaking addresses then claiming toys as military perks. That wife's aggression wrecked the garden and door. Good on the husband for apologizing and fixing it. Army spouses don't get carte blanche. Respect boundaries. Entitled neighbor uses driveway without permission story boils my blood. Driving through someone's yard without asking? Rude. I admire the passive-aggressive car block. It forced the jerk to detour. Asking first could have avoided drama. Entitlement breeds resentment. Sister demands grandma's apartment story disgusts me. Using a fresh death for an affair hideout? Repulsive. I support op cutting ties and telling the husband, no empathy for grandma's loss shows deep selfishness. Hiding keepsakes was smart. Protect your peace. Karen and the handicap spot story hits close. Invisible disabilities are real, and I hate gatekeepers judging appearances. Calling cops over a valid placard? Overreach. Kudos to the officer for verifying. Karens need education on empathy. Self-conscious coworker story is sad but telling. Projecting insecurities via insults isn't okay. I dress for myself too. Calling a skirt trampy reeks of jealousy. HR's warning was mild, but the side eye from others? Natural consequence. Confidence shines, haters fade. And that brings us to another end of r/entitled people. If you missed the last episode of r/entitled people, check it out if you haven't, and I'll see you guys in the next one.